Kia ora and welcome to Love Literacy Inspired, a podcast where we explore the real stories behind Aotearoa's literacy journeys. I'm Heather Down, founder of Love Literacy and passionate advocate for structured evidence-based teaching. Each episode, I sit down with inspiring New Zealanders, teachers, parents, advocates, and learners to hear how literacy has shaped their lives, their work, and their hearts. Whether you're in the classroom or at the kitchen table or just keen to learn, I'm so glad you're here. So let's dive in. And today, I'm really excited to have Leslee Allen, the principal of Kaurihohore School, with me and the founder of Number Agent. So, welcome along to the podcast.
Awesome. Lovely to be here.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. And so appreciative that you've taken some time out of your busy schedule. It is still term time. And so we're all busy working. So, yeah, really appreciative that you've done that for me today.
Not a problem.
Awesome. And I just thought we would start with offering you the opportunity to give us a little introduction about yourself.
Yeah. So I'm a Northland born and bred person. I was born in Whangarei and I still live in Whangarei.
Wow.
So very much have my roots in the north. I whakapapa up north, and my family is here as well. So that's what's kept us here. I grew up rurally, so my heart is in that rural background. I went to a small rural school where play was really important, and that I now know shaped how I kind of view learning and that. So, yeah, and so married a local Northland man, and we have two children who are now adults. My daughter, who's studying educational psychology and is just finishing up in that, and finishing her master's in that, and my son, who's off into a trade. So, both taken very different paths, but yeah, and have worked in four schools over my time. I think 27 years plus of teaching, and have been in Cody for a very long time now. Started here as a teacher in 2003. Yeah, so that's me.
Oh, that's amazing. I love the fact that you're born and bred
Mm.
Northland and yeah, have stayed the way. So you would have seen a lot of growth and change in the area through your career and through your life, I suppose.
Yes, a lot of change, but a lot stays the same up here too.
Yeah. And I had the pleasure of being up in Whangarei this time last year for sharing best practice, which is actually, funny enough, where I first realized, ah, Leslee Allen is number agent. And yeah, because I'd interacted with you a little bit online,
Yeah,
and the penny dropped, and I really enjoyed your keynote speech at sharing best practice last year. So yeah,
cool. Awesome.
yeah, wonderful. So my first question was, what inspired you? What first inspired you to step into teaching?
Well, that's a bit of a funny story because I have had many professions I wanted to be as a child, and initially I wanted to be a jockey, and I got too big. Um, and then I wanted to be very much into animals, so I wanted to be a marine biologist, a zoologist, and then I decided I loved writing, so I actually went and did journalist kind of course at night and went to environmental science my first year out of high school and then didn't really know what I was going to do. And my best friend, who is still my best friend, Angela, who's active on my number agent page as well, said, I'm going teaching. And I said, okay, I will too. And that's so there's no mystical, I was inspired to be a teacher story. It's just, I guess I was a little bit lost about what to do, and didn't really want to move away from home, wasn't that adventurous and didn't really want the uni experience. So I ended up in training college and I was terrible. Um, yeah, I
Really,
really,
I can't
really,
imagine it, but yes.
yeah, I really didn't. I passed and everything, but I hated it. I was actually told in my first year by one of my tutor teachers, I think he called them, that I should give up, that I wasn't meant to be a teacher.
Wow.
I'm really stubborn, so that made me dig my heels in. And I got better, but I hated practicums. I really was scared of going into schools. I found it really difficult. And so I probably didn't see myself staying in teaching very long. Uh, but I had a really rough first year as well in a school that was quite toxic. Um, and luckily, the next school I went to was incredible, and the principal there was amazing, and he was the turnaround of me in my career. Yeah.
What do you think it made, what made it a bit difficult for you, do you think, doing the teaching degree in Teachers Training College?
Well, I think now both my children have been diagnosed with ADHD. And I feel I probably have ADHD. Um, so I think the pressure, that just everything was a bit too much, and we now know about ADHD. That does become quite hard as you become older,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
struggle to mask and just navigating feeling like a child and still feeling quite young. I think I just struggled interpersonally. I didn't have those executive functioning skills well developed. And I really did struggle, but I had a lot of resilience, which was given to me by my mother and father, and a lot of persistence, and there was a never give up attitude. And so I think that's what kept me there. There were elements of things that I loved. So I loved literacy. And I loved seeing how much the kids sparked up and got excited by things. But I really didn't like the interplay with adults. So the staff rooms were really difficult. That interpersonal stuff I found really, really hard. People think I'm an extrovert, but I'm an introvert. And so an introvert in those environments is quite hard. And when I did some relieving, and that was really difficult.
Wow, I feel like you've just described me. So
Yeah.
there we go. So
Yeah.
I'm absolutely fascinated. This is what I love about doing this and these conversations is that there are so many of us that have got these little neuro
Mm,
differences uh, that end up guiding us on our pathway, and we're not really sure why, but yeah, and also I've spoken to quite a few people where they feel that when they're working with students that are struggling, and we can perhaps talk about this a bit later on, that based
yeah.
on your own experiences, you hold such a lot of empathy. And
Mm,
you know where they're sitting, especially with something like ADHD and we
mm,
don't need to be diagnosed, but and especially with those executive function skills,
mm.
because I am very similar. I have very weak executive function skills and do
Mm.
a lot of masking and have ended up in a similar situation.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm very much the same. High school was very difficult for me.
mm, mm,
I just never felt seen. Uh,
mm,
and yeah, primary school was good, but high school
mm,
was hard. Yeah.
mm. So
I think
you're,
there's a lot of us out there.
yes, there are a lot of us out there, and yeah, and I don't think we actually realize with it. So,
Mm.
so did you ever struggle with literacy yourself, like
No.
reading, writing, and spelling?
No, I don't remember learning how to read or write or
Mm,
spell. I just
mm,
I'm a good speller, but I'm an intuitive speller. So there are words that I've never learned to spell correctly and I always have to think about, like lightning.
mm,
Um, it's a
mm,
word successful, words
mm.
like that.
Yep.
But I would have really benefited from learning rules. And
Yes.
that's been something that's been eye-opening for me as a teacher. So literacy was natural. It just, I grew up in a rich literacy environment. Mum and dad read the newspaper, they read magazines, they read to me. We had chapter books. I think I went to school reading. I loved literacy. And so I never struggled with that. I did struggle with maths.
Yeah, that is interesting. And there's been such a shift in the way that families oh, what's a good word? Display literacy or
Mm,
showcase
yeah.
literacy within families now? Because yeah, myself, I grew up in a household where the newspaper was in the household. My
Mm,
parents set aside an hour every weekend for reading after lunch, and we were encouraged to do that as children as well. So
yeah.
we've seen, I think there's definitely a different way that students are growing up now, seeing literacy within the environment.
Yeah. Well, I would
Yeah.
jump into bed with mum and dad in the weekend. They'd be both reading their books, and I'd be in the
Mm,
middle reading my book. And it was just
mm,
the done. than thing. I think
Mhm.
now that both have devices and I'd have my device.
Yeah, I know. And so we see
Yeah,
it slightly differently, don't we?
yeah.
Yeah. So I do a lot. Yeah, I do a lot of my reading online. Although
Mm.
every now and then I must admit I have to print something out to read it if I
Yeah,
really need to get the gist of it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Mm. So 27 years and four schools of teaching, and you're now a principal.
Mm.
But you're a principal that actually likes to stay within the classroom.
Yeah.
So can you tell us why it's important for you to lead and to teach at the same time?
Yeah, so I always saw myself as a teacher.
Mm.
I've always been a real passionate teacher and teacher learner, I call myself. So when the opportunity presented itself that the school needed a principal, we're a rural school. We fluctuate between 180, 220 on a really big year. And the principal before me had led with he could retained a teaching component where he would release and things like that. And it's always been quite a flat hierarchy of a school. And so when that opportunity came, I didn't want to be a principal. It was never, ever on my, again, I never wanted to go to training. I never wanted to be a principal. The staff talked me into it. And so when I talked to the board about it, went to my interview, I said I will do it with one proviso and that I will teach 3 days a week. And at that stage, I was in the new entrant room and have been for most of my principalship in the new entrant room. And people say they wonder how I can manage it. And I say, why don't you do it? Because to me, teaching gives me the relationship with the whānau. And a lot of a
Yeah.
principal's job is putting out fires. Well, relationships put those fires out before they happen. And so I have already that relationship with those parents. I have taught their children. Um, we've already got that communication style. I know the children in the school. So if there's, and again, principal's job sometimes is behavior. I understand the kids, I know them, I can talk to them in different ways. So I kind of, it never ever entered my head to step out into the office full time. And I feel as a, in terms of leadership and leading a school, I have to be the person knowing what's next and teaching helps me know that. I think if I wasn't teaching, I wouldn't be constantly trying things. Does this work? And the way I do it, I can stay a step ahead. So I can read some research, I can hear a podcast. I'm an avid podcast listener.
Well, yeah,
Um,
me too.
that's a great idea. Take it into my classroom, like I did with SRSD. Take it, trial it. This really works. Now I want to lead it with my staff, but I'm able to stay a step ahead. Really benefits us with PLD. We don't have to have external PLD. I can lead that. And I've just kept me ahead of that game. It's kept the school ahead of the game. And so I believe teaching and retaining that makes me the principal that I am.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with that. And I was actually, as an avid podcast listener myself, listening to one this morning, and one of the things that they were talking about it on it was that you very quickly start to see the people that are giving advice that are no longer in the classroom.
Yeah. Mm.
And so we can receive all of this educational advice, and people are going, well, it's easy that, the theory is really easy, just go out and do it. But it's actually not like that once you're within the classroom and once you're teaching, because there are so many variables going on, um, right down to what someone's had to eat that day or how much sleep they had the night before. And so being able to take that theory and actually putting it into practice and putting it into practice multiple times, um, yeah, it gives you a really, really great viewpoint.
Yeah, and it's if I wouldn't do it myself, then I wouldn't expect my staff to do it. Because I know how crowded the curriculum is. I know how hard it is in a classroom. And I also know how much I look at other places and how they push PLD through. So they do a year and then they expect it to be embedded. And I know as a classroom teacher that doesn't work that way. And so we can do bite-sized learning. We can drive it forward that way. We can commit to a goal for 3 years and 4 years and then have it embedded and then change.
Mm.
Over that time it's going to change constantly anyway.
Mm.
Um, because the journey is what's the where the growth is. But I think that that's being a teacher has kept me grounded. And if I couldn't do it in my classroom, then why would I expect my staff to do it? If I don't want someone over my shoulder checking my planning every week, why would I do that to my staff? Those kind of things that
Yeah.
add to the culture of the school.
Oh, yes. I love
Mm,
it. I love it. Yeah. And that's it. And so much comes from the top down.
mm, mm,
Yeah. Yeah. So you another thing that I have just been thinking about as well is with the significant number of years that you've been teaching, you would have seen quite a change within literacy.
mm.
Can you talk me through a little bit of the change that you've seen? Before we get into a little bit about what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah, the change we've seen, like I guess, a two pronged. I don't feel I was taught to teach literacy at all, so I feel like I kind of was following my gut a lot back then anyway, and so a lot I guess I was setting tasks, but I wasn't actually teaching. I don't think I think had good intentions, but I had no I guess I want to say scope and sequence, but I didn't know it back then. I was rudderless. I
Mm,
guess I talk about myself as being rudderless with good intentions. I really tried to meet children's needs. Back then, though, most children were still coming from really literacy rich
mm,
environments. The majority of children were really, I guess, I hate that word ready, but they displayed that readiness for reading and writing. um, Again, I hate to say it, but we had really supportive families. There was high trust in education. It was a very much a different world in quite a
mm,
short space of time. And I guess I muddled my way through, and I actually worked with gay buyers for a while and did all of that, and went out and mentored teachers with teaching writing and lovely use of exemplars. And so I had the big picture, but
mm,
the small steps. And I think that's the kind of key. I think I always knew what I wanted and where I wanted them to get to. I had
mm,
that big picture, but I didn't have the small steps to get there. And then I suddenly encountered children that what I was doing did not work.
mm.
And and that was the light bulb moment for me too. Yeah.
Ah, yeah. I did wonder whether there was a light bulb moment.
Mm,
That was
mm,
one of my questions was,
yeah.
did you see something? So then you discovered some children that it wasn't working for, and we could say these children obviously have a language-based difficulty, whether
Mm,
it's
mm,
dyslexia and ADHD, or perhaps developmental language disorder, which we're
mm.
still learning quite a bit about. And I myself am still on that journey with DLD.
Yeah.
Um, but then, a lot of people I've spoken to say, "Oh, well, we discovered structured literacy, or I did some training, or there was this new training out there." Where do you fit on that little pathway of discovering that the approach that you were using needed to change?
Yeah, so I guess backtracking probably about 12 years, it all started really with play, and I always gift play for
Yeah.
everything because it started me noticing and recognizing and responding to children and looking developmentally at them. And that's what led me to notice oral language. And so it all started with oral language. We had a child that nothing would work. I just felt like I was really struggling with him. And so we started a play-based class and we started from oral language, and he had good gains from there. But because I'd gone on that journey, I then started to see that we ditched reading recovery years before I discovered structured lit, just because I realized that children shouldn't be recovering from anything. And I didn't
Mm,
feel that it was a good match for our school back then. It wasn't anything to do with me understanding the science of reading, it was just me understanding children. And then I vividly remember sitting outside in my play-based class with a child that had been stuck on, I think he was stuck on yellow. He could have been stuck on red or pink. I don't really remember.
mm,
And I just sat there and I thought there has to be a better way. And so this was about 7, 8 years ago. I think that child's in his last year of intermediate now. And and that led me to find decodables.
Right.
And so that was my first route, and I knew nothing about structured lit. I knew nothing about the science of reading. Decodables was my first kind of foray into trying. And so my teaching partner and I found that these little books helped. They helped us to be more specific. And so I just went down a massive rabbit hole then, finding out why that worked and discovering about all sorts of phonological awareness and phonemic awareness. And the lights just came on. And so that was well before people were saying anything about structured literacy and things like that. So we'd kind of shaped our program, and then we started to see that kind of, and 5 years ago, people starting to talk about it more. And but was our routine was seeing the problem with the child, but I would never have seen it if I hadn't started with play. So it was like a learner journey for me.
Yeah, wow. I absolutely love that because most people have kind of just been thrust in, haven't they?
Mm, yeah,
And we all know what it's like when we're thrust into something that we're really not sure about. There's a lot of resistance with that, but when it grows really naturally like that, I just sort of feel
mm,
like the learning journey can, oh, you can just have so many more aha moments.
yeah, yeah. We
Mm.
had the freedom to do that because no one
Mm.
was telling us to do it. Um, and also, I'm a big believer, and I that was my biggest concern when we started rolling out the mandated structured literacy was that we have to have a why, and it's always been my thing is we have to have a why, and if teachers don't have their why, then they'll do it, but it might fail because they don't really have their heart in it, and then we'll say, yeah, it doesn't work anyway, and we'll go back. So we have to have our why, and like children, we have to know the point of what we're doing.
Mm.
And we don't come to the point of what we're doing without a little bit of discovery ourselves. You know,
Yes.
we can be
Yeah.
pushed to that, but we have to have that chance to discover for ourselves a little bit, um, so that we have that aha moment. And after that little boy, and he realized that none of these children were reading really. Like they were all just, I thought they were reading, but they weren't really reading. And some of them did absolutely fine, but it took my blinkers off to see that actually what we were doing wasn't working for a lot of them. And particularly with spelling, that became my new obsession.
Yeah.
Because my children were natural readers, they were great readers, but they're both poor spellers. And I wish,
Mm.
because I taught them, I wish I could go back and teach them how to spell.
Oh,
Yeah,
the mother's
yeah,
curse. Oh, I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
know. I know this. I mean, yeah, you know, my
yeah,
son is dyslexic,
yeah, yeah,
dysgraphic,
yeah,
and yeah, yeah, he was filling in a form. This is just slightly deviating, but we have to go and get his wisdom teeth out, and he was filling in the form. And I still look at him at 18 years old, and I just think this is a basic life skill, and
yeah,
it's something that he struggles with. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And but he won't work with me. He knows that yeah. He might when he's 28, he'll probably say, Mom, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
Mm,
I love this. I love your journey.
mm.
It's amazing. Can you tell me a little bit about how Number Agents was born? And I'd like to am I right in saying that Number Agents was born from the play-based learning and the observations that you were doing and your aha moments and you're delving into decodables and finding out about phonics?
Yes, so there's been two births of number agents.
Okay.
Number agents has its roots in play. So the original number agents had its roots in play. And so I'm big in drama too. So across the school we use a lot of drama for learning. Um, and we'd been working with Mental of the Expert and Vivek, and who's incredible. And I wanted to bring that into my maths. So I wanted to bring play into my maths. And so Number Agents was born out of drama. So it was a creation of heroes and villains and a lead professor and just this world that needed our help because there were these villains creating mathematical problems all over the place in New Zealand. And so the problems would come and we would solve them, and it was all very lovely and dramatic, and the kids absolutely adored it. And that was based on my Learning's into play and drama and the role of intrigue. And we know that when we are intrigued about something, we are more likely to remember it. But also when we attach an emotion to anything, we are also
I was
more
just
likely
going
to
to
remember it.
say, yeah,
Yeah.
we're in the
Yeah.
green zone when we're feeling good.
Yeah, yeah. And so it was my desire to kind of bring that, to merge both those worlds. And at that stage with maths, we were doing, we'd been on that real like Joe Bowler journey. So we were doing mixed ability problem solving, and it was all problem solving, and strategies would develop as they problem solved. It was all that belief that they would come to it on their own. So Number Agents was fantastic, but once I started my structured journey, it led me to the science of learning and the principles of science of learning. And I saw that for many number agents, although they love the world, the maths was not happening because it was so overloading. They kept the characters in their minds, they kept the rhythms and the routines in their minds, but the maths was second. And also, I discovered that a lot of Joe Bowler's work I now don't stand by. And a lot of that, I came to the fact, well, if I have to teach explicitly for literacy, then it should be the same for
Mm,
numeracy.
mm.
And so the second birth came when we were working in a number agents session, and it's all puppet based. So I had a Professor Puppet leading it, and I was asking some of my girls who are now in year 5 here to get a group of counters. I asked them to get a group of 5 counters, and they got this massive handful and okay, they counted them out, but then again, I asked them to get 5 and still they got a massive handful. Or can you get 7? They still went back a
Ah,
bit more. And that led me to dyscalculia.
yes.
So I was like, okay, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Led me to dyscalculia, led me to the work of Christopher Wooden. So that led me to put number agents as it was on hold for a bit. And that's where the scope and sequence was born. And so that
Ah,
very much like a scope and sequence for literacy, but it's a scope and sequence for maths,
yep.
and it's got its roots in what we do for children with dyscalculia. And then I came back to number agents and paired it back. And so although I'm called number agents, I'd now call that portal problem solving.
Okay. Yeah.
And so the problems, there's a portal in our class, and the problems come through the portal, but they're only problems that children have the knowledge base to solve now. So they're not discovering anything through the problem solving. They already have the knowledge to solve it. So there's, yeah, and it's lighter cognitive load. There's only 4 characters. It's much easier. The rhythm is easier. I've taken
Mhm.
the kind of the fluff out of it, but the fun's still there.
But the
Um,
fun's
and
really, yeah.
and so we do scope and sequence till we get to about session 40. Then we introduce the problem solving, and they do that once or twice a week alongside the scope and sequence. So it's a marrying of both worlds because I still knew how important that playful approach was,
Mm.
and the problem solving, but problem solving through a schema base, through a knowledge base was really important for me. So that it kind of mirrored my structured lit journey, really. Where I've merged play and my approach to structured literacy, I've merged it with maths as well.
Yeah, and the idea where we put the science of learning into it. So you've taught it, and
Mm,
now you're providing a really beautiful play-based way for them to go back
mm,
in and get the repetitions they need in
mm.
order to cement and embed the
Yeah,
learning.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of based on the faraway tree, like there's a
Mm.
world that comes and the portal's connected to us, and we solve the problem and we tell the villain, haha, we've solved the problem. And it's a very light version of number agents, but it's still got the essence there, which the
Yes.
children love. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And can you talk a little bit about, because one of the things that I was really taken with when I listened to you speak last year at sharing best practice in whangare was, and you've touched lightly on it when you said that you looked into SRSD.
Mm,
Um, I know that you've done quite a bit of work around the play-based learning and building knowledge through literacy, and also how you've seen this coming into your writing.
yeah.
Can you tell me, or could you tell the listeners a little bit more about this?
About the writing?
Yeah, because well, my context is that when you were talking in whangare, you were
Mm.
saying how you had the characters, you had characters, and
Yeah.
then what you were seeing was when the children were doing writing, they
Mm.
already had something to write about
Ah,
because
yeah.
yeah, they had the characters, and then you were starting to see this coming through in their writing as well.
Yeah. So they do that with the portal math. So they will write to
Right.
they'll write to the characters. But where I most found that was we started a kind of a fluency. I guess I started with sentence level fluency, and
Mm.
they were characters that were in the stories we were reading. So they're like a cat and a pig and a yeah, Ned and Bob, and they start really simple. And so those characters, the way they're written, they're very easy to read. They're about, well, it depends, decodability depends on the child.
Yep,
Try to write,
exactly.
find the happy medium for the class, but they're based on repeated reading. So we read part one first day, we read part one and two the next day. But what the unintentional impacts were on writing, because suddenly if say I happened to say let's just do some writing today, but didn't actually give them something to write around, which we don't do often, they had something to fall back on. So if they couldn't and didn't have an idea, they started to write about these characters, Ned and Bob and Vogue and Beck, and the adventures that they'd already read about. So they started to write more because they already had these characters and their adventures in their head, which because I've done a lot of work on the knowledge, I understand that's because they had knowledge about that and they enjoyed those characters. So
Yes. Yes.
that gave my struggling writers something to write about. So we don't ever have children not able to write.
Yeah, and this is what I love that is so cool about the journey of self-discovery. Um,
Mm,
and I'm with you, and a lot of my work is very intuitive, and I'm finding that things aren't working, and so I'm always refining and changing things, and it is very much of the journey. But we now know after doing so much work with the writing rope, well, and the reading rope and the writing rope, very, very I can't think of a word, but
intertwined or
intertwined. Thank
relation.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's my executive function failing me again. But they're
Yeah.
very much intertwined. And we do know that if we don't have the knowledge there and we don't have the base there, then it
Mm,
is very, very difficult. Well, to read about something because you don't know the words and you don't
mm,
know the meaning behind the words, but then to take it into writing. And we
yeah.
know how much more of a cognitive load that writing has.
Mm,
So to be able to provide the writing,
mm,
the knowledge for the writing is amazing.
mm.
And that's and yeah. So for me, when you can discover that yourself and you can see it playing out, all of
Yeah,
a
yeah.
sudden, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's it's great because you see it playing out, then you do a bit of learning and oh, this is why it's playing out. This is what I could do to tweak it further. Um, Writing has been, I guess, part of a massive journey for me. I
mm,
never ever occurred to me how difficult writing was. We'd set a task and expect them to go off and write and wonder why they couldn't. And I sat back the other day when I set them off to write about, I can't remember what we were writing about. And what I marveled about was that not one of them couldn't write. They all did it quickly. They
amazing.
all were happy to do it. And I thought, how different is that? Because we used to have, always had those kids that were like, I don't know what to write. I am
Mm,
reluctant.
mm.
They were reluctant. I'm doing air quotes because they weren't reluctant. They just didn't have the skills
Yeah, they didn't have the
because
skill.
they didn't have those foundational skills that were able to be. So writing is the most complex cognitive task we ask them to do.
Yeah,
We view it
absolutely.
very, very simply.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And actually, what I'm seeing at the moment is, and through my tutoring practice, I'll get parents that are saying, okay, well, what's also happening is that the reading, so we're getting things a little bit messed up here.
Mm,
So the reading level is being set on the spelling level, but we know that a reading level will be actually be quite far above a spelling level
yeah.
because of the fact that there is so much more cognitive work that needs to be done with writing.
Mm,
So reading is going to come first. Spelling and writing are going to lag behind a little bit. We shouldn't be setting the reading at the spelling level. We should be extending that reading and pushing that reading and
Yeah.
introducing that beautiful vocabulary.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and then the writing will come with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. It's really apparent how much the spelling comes behind, but how
Mm.
much the spelling helps the reading is just awesome as well.
Is amazing. Yeah, is amazing.
Mm.
Oh, and have you had any standout transformations?
Um, I guess we did have one little guy who's now in year 6 who I did worry that I wasn't going to be able to teach him to read
Mm.
or write. There's cognition issues there and other issues going on. And I'd had him, I had him as a new entrant, then I transitioned through to year 2. So I had him for a good couple of years, if not more than that. And I had him into year 3 and I was really concerned that I wasn't going to be able to get going. So he really, really taught me about how to do phonemic awareness, not in the dark. He taught me about all sorts of things. And yes, we got reading and he is reading and he is writing. And yeah, he still wouldn't be where you'd want a year 6 to be, but he can read and write and he will be able to fill a form in and he is confident. And so I look back at those foundations and I guess I'm really proud of that because if I'd had that child even 10 years ago, I wouldn't have had a clue.
Oh, it's
Mm.
amazing. Yeah, I just love hearing things like this. I really do. I really do. And I think I even wrote on one of your Facebook posts, I wish you'd taught my son. Yeah, yeah, I wish that we were, sort of 10 years
Yeah,
later.
yeah. I have a real passion for neurodivergent learners, and they teach me a lot.
Yeah, but that's our tribe, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, you have that. Yeah, you have that. I was talking to one of the earlier podcasts, Dr. Eunice Fuchs, and she said that ND people attract ND people, and
Yeah,
we all get together in this little hub, and yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about the resources that you create on Teachers Pay Teachers?
Yeah, so I started doing that for number agents and just kind of the problems and the world and initially wrote a few books about, well, the book PDF books about play and
Mm.
my journey because I think we don't, and I was actually talking to Bruno Reddy the other day and we were talking about how we don't share enough. We don't put ourselves out there enough. It is scary to share. And I tell you every time I post, I worry about the comments. It's so silly. But
Oh,
the
yeah.
the pieces on Teachers Pay Teachers are really just to help teachers to get going. And then once I got into writing my scope and sequence, it became the natural place to just put it. Um, and I've always loved writing. And so it morphs and changes over time, and I just upload it, and it's a really easy vehicle to do. But it really is just born out of I want to share,
Yeah.
and take from it what you will, agree,
Yeah.
disagree, it doesn't really matter. But I think we live in these, even if we're in multi-tier classrooms with other teachers, we still live in a very siloed universe as teachers. And it's really easy to get stuck and feel like there's no one out there. And
Mm.
I wanted to be that real person that's facing real challenges every day in the classroom and be that person for other teachers. And because there wasn't that person for me when I started teaching, there wasn't someone I could see that was like me. And I know people, I hate it. People tend to like put me up on some sort of pedestal, and I don't like that. I'm just a teacher, and I think when we say just a teacher, it undermines that we are amazing. But I want
Yeah.
all teachers to have what they need
Mm.
and yeah, there's a small cost just to cover the time that goes into it. But
Mm.
again, I once it's up there and they have it, they get it free every update. So,
Mm.
and I share a lot through my number agent group as well that I just give freely because I think that if once you have something, and that's why I wrote the scope and sequence, not for it to be followed mindlessly, but for it to be a
Mm.
springboard
Mm.
once you have something to springboard off, like I had decodable books and then I had other things to springboard off. And And Liz Kane's work was amazing. And the original, like she shares a lot. And that really I springboarded and I thought, well, you've got to give back.
Mm.
To me, once we know something, it's not ours to hold on to. I love that in a Māori culture that once we know something, we are burdened with telling and sharing. That's part of that culture, you know. It's not all ours, that story isn't ours to hold on to. It's not our knowledge. It's not our, shouldn't just be held in our mana, but it should be given to increase the mana of others.
I so hear you and I so relate, and that's why I've got so many free resources on my website
Mm,
because and the only things that I've put up as paid things are the ones that have taken a significant amount of time, or like my card game resources that I incur a cost in producing. But I absolutely love that because I feel that if you have that knowledge, then and it will help somebody,
mm,
and it might not help someone today, or it might not help them tomorrow, but it might help them in a few years' time, or even if they're just taking little bits of these little knowledge bits and bobs,
mm.
and something sticks and they deep dive down a rabbit hole, you know,
Yeah,
we're helping um,
yeah.
in some way,
Spark
shape, or form.
curiosity, just spark curiosity, you know,
Can't
that's
spark the curiosity. Yeah, I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. Um, oh yeah, no, that's awesome. Do you hear back from any teachers about the resources?
I do hear a lot. I have a lot of teachers that approach me and say, "List." Many, particularly in the beginning, list like me, because maths was difficult for me, and teaching through the numeracy project actually helped me, because it gave me a framework to teach through. But many teachers, and I think the same can be said for literacy, we they really do struggle. They weren't trained. We weren't trained well enough.
Mm.
And that's not a fault of them. But many come to me and say, look, I finally love teaching maths. I used to put it off. I used to go, oh, no time today, we'll do it tomorrow. And now I love it. My children love it. I feel more confident. Um, and that's I think is what I want is I just want people to feel like they can do it, springboard off there, take it, grow from it. Yeah, I get a lot of feedback, and a lot of teachers now who teach it across their junior school and are seeing the gains made by their children and their own practice. And many would say it's the best PLD they've had. I make those little snippet YouTube videos because that's like I believe in bite-sized PLD. And
Mhm.
so I believe we take in small amounts. That's all we've got room for. We go and play with it, we come back to it. And so I've made these little YouTube videos that people find really useful, and little videos along the way of just my musings because I think, you know, if it helps one person, then that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Mm,
Oh, that's awesome. And yeah, and we lighten the cognitive load as
yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, so my next question is, if you could go back to your earlier self at the beginning of your teaching journey, what advice would you give to yourself back then?
I think I would tell myself to just be okay with
Yeah.
where I'm at. Um, to maybe be a bit more curious and to maybe question more. Um, because I think that I did follow a lot of practice that I thought we should do. And as a young teacher, you do. But just to, I guess, tune into your kids more,
Mm,
take more time to develop those relationships, actually see them and stop being so busy. Um, and teaching, yeah, it should be look after yourself, be kind to yourself. A lot of,
mm.
yeah, it's okay right now. Yeah,
It is
yeah.
okay right now. With any change comes that a little bit of fear and uncertainty.
Mm.
But I guess, your teaching career has been quite long, so you've probably been in that situation a few times. So,
Mm, mm.
yeah.
And as my personality is I'm a natural people pleaser, and I think that came out, and a perfectionist, so that came out quite early in my teaching career, and I could have burnt out, but I didn't. I was lucky to have people around me that were the right people at the right time. So that was really lucky. But I guess you can't be everything to everybody. Mm.
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the hard things about teaching, isn't it? That you probably do feel like you have to be everything to everybody. Um, I I myself, I've never, I've taught in the classroom with early childhood, but not with primary school teaching. So yeah, I do know that you are pulled in several different ways, and it can be very hard to retain that sense of self.
Yeah.
Yeah, within teaching. Um, and if you could give advice to parents out there at the moment, they where I'm sort of heading with this is that there's lots in the media about structured literacy, and we do tend to hear the negative aspects of it. What advice would you have for families out there when they're hearing about structured literacy in the media?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? I guess don't rush in and confront the teacher.
Yeah,
Would
yeah,
be a
that's
really
yeah.
good thing because we're all learning, and
Mm,
I was lucky. I feel like when we came to this journey, well, I'd already done it, so I felt I was we were lucky here. But I feel if teachers are still learning, talking to your child's teacher about how you can help at home, what they're working on, being, I think, aware that a lot of what they do really helps. And that's my message to my parents is that repeated practice is put the device away, tune into your child, read to them. Um, if they can't read the text, read the sentence, let them read the sentence, just tune in. Um, and yeah, I guess I really just want people to start putting the devices down. Let you,
yeah.
let your child play and bite-sized amounts. I say to my parents, pick one thing, ask the teacher, what is it? One thing we want to get. For my kids at the moment, we do checkpoint assessments in term three because I like to hit the ground in term four. We're consolidating everything from the year and I want to know where I'm at. I want to know where they're all at. So irregular words has been something for my kids that I've been really hammering with this parents. And so I'm saying pick one, just that pick the one word, concentrate on it for 2 weeks, come back to it. We did an assessment in term two. We've just done the same assessment. A little boy that got none right the first time got most of them right the second time. So just repeated practice.
And that's the power of I know we don't like to assign homework, but
Mm,
I call it home learning. Home
yes.
learning. And I try and get my parents involved in my tutoring practice. I try and get my parents involved as much as possible
Mm,
by making my home learning activities as interactive as possible with the
yeah,
parents
yeah,
because they do play such a vital role
yeah,
in helping cement that vocabulary.
yeah.
And I get them to do a lot of oral language work as well. So if we're looking at writing sentences in full, we're getting into that real sentence work. I say, right, this week, encourage your children to answer every question in a
Mm,
full sentence.
yeah,
What did you have for dinner tonight? For dinner tonight, we ate
yeah.
chicken, potatoes, and peas. So yeah, that family collaboration is just really
Mm.
essential.
I
Yeah.
think, and too, particularly for those children that struggle, but all children, that
Mm,
multiple repetitions is so vital. So I
mm,
call it home support, but I can't do it without them. So I see it, and I always say to them, I can tell who's been practicing,
yes.
but the goals are not for them to teach. I
Mm,
will teach them, they're just for them to practice. I don't want them to think they have to be teachers, but I also just want it to be bite-sized
mm,
and something small, pick one thing,
mm.
check it off. Yeah. And try to talk a bit about, repeated practice, daily, then backing off and maybe doing a bit more. And yeah.
Yeah, giving a little bit of time for it to
Mm,
consolidate the space practice,
yeah.
yeah, retrieval practice, yeah,
Mm,
all of the go-tos at
yeah. Yeah. All of
the
that. Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all that at the moment.
Yeah.
Oh, that is awesome. Um, what gives you hope for the future of literacy in New Zealand?
Well, I'm really hopeful that we're on the right path.
Mm,
I see more positive commenting about, I guess, structured literacy and things. I see less of the whole we're just throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Oh, we did that 20 years ago, and it's just coming around and going around. I'm hopeful that I'm hopeful that over time we'll see how we can merge things together, that it's not one thing or the other. That gives me hope. I do worry that teachers are so bogged down, and that it does feel like something that's being done to them.
Mm.
So I'm hopeful that they start to see the transformation for their children, and that drives them forward. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I fully agree with that. And we know that sometimes it does take a good consolidated effort of putting those practices into place in order to see that that movement, that traction.
Mm.
So yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Oh, I've really thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. And I feel like there's lots of points. I'm going to look back on this and I'm going to go, I wish I'd asked you about this, or I wish I'd asked you about this. But yeah, my one of the things I was going to ask was on in all of your groups and all of your social capacity, can you let me know where you're most I was going to say prevalent, but I don't feel like that's the right word. Where you put most of your effort into, is it YouTube or the Facebook? Like, where can we find you in the
And
best place?
most of my effort goes into my group, so number
Right.
eight sharing group. I share a lot through my number agent's Facebook page. It's public, but I
Yep.
don't generally share um, items that are from my classroom or activities. I occasionally do, but in my number agents group, because it's a private group and because I know people are they're all related to education or teaching, I feel safer to share in there. So I'm much more likely to share in my number agent group. I'm quite prolific with the maths, but I know that people enjoy the literacy stuff, so I do share elements of that. And my number agent blog is I don't know. I think I've been blogging since, oh, I don't know how long. They're pretty old now anyway. I keep everything there so people can see my journey because my voice
Yes.
has changed
Yes. Yep.
from the beginning, and I think that's important. I'm not going to delete that
Mm,
voice from prior to all of this is very real. So I do blog. If I've got something specific to say, I will blog about it. Um,
mm,
and I do need to do that more. It's just finding the time.
mm,
But yeah, I if I have something to say about something, I will post it as a blog in my
mm.
Facebook, in my
Yeah.
number blog post. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I've read a few about intertwining the structure and play together
Mm.
to get the best of both worlds. And I would definitely recommend that listeners dive in and have a really, really good nose around in there because I think one of the things that we're seeing a little bit is that people feel like they're losing the creativity and spark from the classroom with the introduction of structured literacy, but and you can show that that definitely that doesn't happen. That
Mm.
you can have a beautiful marriage of play-based and structure. Yeah, to
Yeah, yeah. When today's empty classroom day, so the whole school's outside playing. It definitely
oh
is
wow.
possible.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it definitely is possible. Yeah. And yeah, just before we do our final little thing on the podcast, is there anything that you would like to say to listeners that you don't think I've asked, or anything you'd like to just cover off?
I don't think so. But the only thing that's been bubbling away under the surface, and it's probably going to be a blog post at some stage, is um, that I do think it's possible to kind of have it all in a school. I do think
Yes.
it's possible to have the scientific principles of learning, the play, the trauma-informed stuff, the developmental. And I think I've been listening to a lot of Nathaniel Swain's work and reading his
Mm,
book. And
mm,
quite commonly, a lot of schools that have gone the route and are doing really well with structured learning are also trauma informed and have a developmental lens. I think I'd like people to be really aware that that's a really important part of a school, and being, neurodiverse affirming is very vital as well, because we don't want to take lots of children along for the ride, but leave a few behind. And I
Mm.
think that it's really important to be thinking of how we are wrapping around all of our children with all of our approaches. And I just want people to know it is possible, but it takes time.
Yeah, it does take time. And there's such a big backstory to every child that comes in
Mm,
and sits in front of you. It's not only their story, it's their parents' story. And
mm,
when we're talking about trauma informed,
mm,
I mean, I see it all the time with students that sit down in front of me and working with some of the parents. It's a very delicate
mm,
journey just because they had such a traumatic time at
yeah.
school, and
Mm,
and even getting them to do a little bit of work with their children can
mm,
be can be
yeah.
difficult. So yeah. And I don't know, like maybe I'm making like a huge overstatement here, but I wonder, because at the end of the day, I'm trauma informed about education, right? Because we went through a very, very traumatic period with my son before we realized that he was dyslexic and I didn't know what was going on.
Mm,
But if he'd been taught to read and write the way the brain is needs to be taught to read
mm,
and write, and all of those connections were made, or someone was looking out for the fact that he had a language deficit,
mm,
we might not have had the trauma.
mm. Yeah,
And he wouldn't have had the bad behavior, and he wouldn't have dropped out at school at
yeah,
16. So I sort of feel again like laying those foundations.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
It's all part of the same package, isn't it?
it is all part of the same
Yeah.
package. So
Mm,
yeah, I think you're right. I do, and
yeah.
I'd love to see the blog post
Yeah.
when it comes out.
When it gets out of my head.
When it
Yeah.
gets out of your head, it bubbles away. When you've got a free moment
Yeah. Yeah.
over the school holidays where you're like,
Yeah.
right, it
Yeah.
needs to
Gonna
come
do
out.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, a huge, huge thank you so much, Leslie, for your time this morning and being vulnerable and sharing your journey and all of the moments that have brought you to where you are today. I'm really, really, really grateful for your time this morning.
Not a problem. Lovely chatting.
Oh, that is awesome. And I'm just going to do my little outro here. So, now, mihi for joining us today on Love Literacy Inspired. If this conversation lit a spark, please share it with someone who'd love it too. And I just want to make a little moment there that I sort of see this podcast as part of my service to community where I love to share. So a like and a comment and a share will go a long way with helping us to get out to other listeners. You can follow us on YouTube and Spotify, and you can find out more on my website where I've got all of my podcasts listed up. So until next time, keep sharing stories, keep asking questions, and loving literacy. Thank you so much, Leslie.
Not a problem.
Cool.